France's Provence transforms into an inferno. Houses, pine forests, hills, seaside. No one is safe.
We haven't had a real fire season in years, but this one could become very bad.
The neighborhood is being evacuated.
Down that road?
No, there's no evacuation that way.
They lit a counter-fire against, meaning a fire that goes towards the wildfire meets it and stops it.
Tell them to send more. In total, 12,000 acres go up in smoke in a summer that sets the record for the number of fires. A daily challenge for the firefighters. 3 months of battling the flames. The opportunity to put into practice years of training. They know that some in their ranks may be injured.
I was scared when I found myself on the ground.
With 6,000 firefighters and 1,500 vehicles, the Bouches du Rhone department is one of the best equipped in France.
I stabilize. I want to roll it back. I stabilize.
On land, in the air, or on the water, they observe and stand ready to intervene. Go on! For the soldiers of fire, this season will long be remembered. You will witness their daily lives, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, battling the flames.
Le feu arrive sur le centre de secours. Police 13 de la zone 13 de Pyromaniacs. On défend les maisons, les gars.
In June and July, after several disastrous fires, 800 hectares of fields and pine forests have burned. Exhausted and taken off guard, the firefighters are training even more. Driving trucks in dangerous environments. Helicopter interventions. And aerial scouting with drones. There's no place for mistake now. August begins. It's the driest month of the year, and the risk of forest fire has never been higher. And to top it all off, a presumed pyromaniac is still at large. The Dash 8 plane is patrolling the area. He scouts a suspicious smoke. Estimated location, the town of Aiguille, near Aix-en-Provence. The aerial base is immediately on alert.
Yes?
The Canadair pilots, Pierre and Jean-Marc, are on duty.
Did he say how far it's gone?
They board their plane and take off for the fire. They stop to fill their tanks with water from the Bear Pond and arrive on site 12 minutes after takeoff. Despite the pilot's quick reaction time, the fire has already propagated over several miles. Their operation zone, a forest of tall pines on a small hill, surrounded by fields and dotted with a few houses. The weather context, a northwesterly wind, a constant mistral with gusts blowing up to 50 miles per hour. The 2 water bomber helicopters are already on site. They drop their water on the edge of the flames on the left flank of the fire. The Canadair have priority. When they arrive, the helicopters step aside. They'll come back when the planes leave to refill their tanks. An aerial ballet takes place over the fire. Lieutenant Colonel Fontaires is one of the first on the site. He takes command of the operations and asks for reinforcements. Fabrice Mosset soon joins him. He comes from the fire station at Aix-en-Provence and is specialized in interventions on inaccessible sites.
From what I can see, I have 2 groups at my disposal.
We'll follow the events of the fire through his eyes.
I was at Aix's emergency rescue service where we can see the whole valley from there. We saw it spread very quickly and very aggressively. It got large fast.
Confronted with a large-scale fire, the commander of operations divides the fire into 3 sectors: left flank, right flank, and front sector. Fabrice Mosset takes the lead on the right flank.
The fire's biggest growth happened in the first 10 to 15 minutes. It consumed what it had to consume. Then the fire went down on farmlands and houses. Fire area is pretty narrow. It didn't widen much. Thanks to the terrain here, it didn't have the time to spread.
Fabrice crosses the burnt area to reach his sector. He passes by several trucks whose radios are obviously turned off.
Hey guys!
They extinguish the flames with water hoses, but they're hindering the 2 planes which can't drop their water and keep whirling in the sky.
Hey! Is your radio on? Pay attention! There's a Canadair coming. 733. Keep it close to your ear. Where are your men?
Are they coming back?
The Canadairs are coming back to water bomb in 3 minutes. Hey! Get your truck away from here! The planes are coming! There was a team already on site. The sector chief tried to contact them to make them get out before the Canadairs bombed them with water. It's very dangerous. The amount of water is enormous, and it's dropped at very high speed. It could have been fatal.
The firefighters are diplomatically made to retreat to safety. The sector chief must coordinate the various teams, vehicles, and more or less cooperative personalities.
I didn't think of becoming a firefighter when I was a kid, but I remember something that impressed me. There was a very, very large fire in the Alpes. Trees were burning, and the firefighters on duty couldn't save every tree. It's something I think about regularly. If you extinguish fire on a tree, it's a tree that's been saved.
A surveillance aircraft flies over the fire to relay its observations to the Fire Brigade HQ. It films in normal and thermal images to locate hotspots. It's nicknamed Horus in reference to the hawk god of ancient Egypt, as it always seems to be hovering above the operations zone. The fire is still active, and a new incident occurs. A young 19-year-old firefighter is evacuated by ambulance to the Aix hospital.
It was hot. There were a lot of flames and a lot of smoke. After half an hour, I wasn't feeling so good. I was scared when I found myself on the ground. My partner was in front of me, so I didn't know if he was going to turn around and see me. I saw the flames and then I got really scared. If my partner had gone, if he didn't turn back and I couldn't get up, I might have died.
On the front line, the firefighters notice that the inferno is slowing down a little. Canadair and helicopters were useful, but it's thanks to the terrain and the wind that the fire finally runs into clear grounds. Deprived of fuel, the fire loses intensity and slowly suffocates. The fire moved by fast and hard. It consumed half of the pine forest that covered the hill.
The fire's under control, but we'll call it extinguished when there's no more risk of it starting again, which could still happen over there. It's smoking again, and if we don't intervene, it could start to spread, and then we'd be right back where we started from.
This is the drowning phase. Each hotspot is watered. The objective? Infiltrate the ground with water down to the tree's roots. It's tedious hard work, less exciting than fighting fires, but absolutely necessary.
Look, look, it's starting again over there. You see? Yeah, it's starting again. Seriously, take care of it. We can't allow it to start again. Thank you, gentlemen. The drowning phase is a fight on every front. Fighting the flames may be exciting, but never neglect the drowning phase.
Fabrice Mosse inspects the burnt area to assess the damages.
Let's go look for the pizzas. This is a trough for the wild boars. Hunters left it there. We were smelling pizza and wondering why. It's because there was wheat burning here. A barrel of wheat right here. It didn't turn into popcorn because it wasn't corn, but it smelt like pizza.
A local resident is walking through the ashes of the pine forest, looking stunned.
Hello, sir. Who are you?
The owner.
Owner of what?
The land there.
Okay. Don't worry, one of my colleagues is going to take care of your area. We're making sure there's no risk of the fire starting again. We're making sure that all the structures around here...
My house over there.
Yeah, I'm taking care of this area and all those houses.
I also have this empty house.
Okay. Well, we're working all around that house to drown the fire.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Good luck. We don't see a fire the same way as someone who's just watching it. We're trained to deploy the appropriate means to control and extinguish the fire. We don't see the spectacular aspect of it. It's just our job. It spread as it came on the right flank. The wind fanned it over 40 hectares.
The town's mayor arrives on the scene. He puts local volunteers from his fire committee at the firefighters' disposal. They are equipped with all-terrain vehicles and small water tanks and hoses.
Thank you for being here. It's very nice of you. I'm going to ask for your help, please. This way, some of my men will be able to go back to the fire station in case of another fire. The surveillance team is going to be small. But I'll tell you why your presence is so important. We need you to watch over the edge of the forest on the side of the road.
No problem. We came here to help.
Okay, thank you. Then let's go.
Fabrice Mosse placed all of his available troops to secure his work site. Nostalgia steps in for a moment as he looks over the site.
18 years ago, I got sent on a pretty aggressive fire in our bois, on the spot where you now see those houses. Back then, we worked hard to put out the fire, and that's normal. And now, years later, there's a new town on that spot where we fought so nature could survive. It's not exactly frustrating, but that's life.
There's no time to philosophize. Another alarm resounds.
Calling on every unit. Fire starting in Martigues.
Pack it up and go to Martigues. Fill up with gas and get to Martigues. Right, 3 go to Salon, 3 go to Martigues. There's an aggressive fire starting in Martigues 40 miles away from here. They don't have a lot of men over there. I'm withdrawing teams who are on drowning duty here, and I'm sending them over there to fight the fire.
Thanks to the surveillance plane Horus, the chiefs of operations can keep watching the fire in Martigues while still extinguishing the fire in Aiguille.
This is great. Now they can really work with the satellite pictures.
One of the members of the mobile command post is appointed to surveillance of the fire in Martigues.
As soon as the plane is in the air, images are sent via aeronautic antennas. We see infrared images. We see the detect hotspots.
Horace sends incredibly precise images. Lieutenant Colonel Fontaires knows the fire in Martigues will quickly be under control, thanks to the planes.
What you see there is a water bomber dropping fire retardant.
Horace can help with water drops in real time, or report on the position of the fire trucks as they move. The fire in Martigues is quickly under control, and again, Commander Mosse is called on another emergency.
What's up?
The sun is setting. The firefighters have been working non-stop for 5 hours. Exhaustion starts to settle in, and 3 tires blow nearly simultaneously.
Those burnt rods stick out of the ground. They're about 3 inches long and they can puncture the wheels of vehicles running over them.
The firemen change their tires. Night has fallen, and the last embers shine in the darkness. In the mobile command post, the time has come to eat a quick meal.
We've got chicken pâté that we can spread on bread, if you can call this bread. A Catalan salad that's probably wasn't made in Spain. And a self-heating meal that works 1 out of 10 times. Let's give it a try. Okay, the box is hot, but the meal is cold. Mission half accomplished. Oh wait, it's warm in the middle. I may sound like an old fogey, but I kid you not. At one point, they were giving us food that had been expired for years.
Today, 41 hectares of pine forest have burned, but the firefighters managed to protect all the houses and the people who live in the area. Our heroes wait for the next shift to relieve them, so they can finally get a few hours of well-deserved rest. The day after, Fabrice Mosse is back, well-rested, at the fire station in Aix-en-Provence.
Welcome to my office. Most of the guys call it the museum. It's things I got from here and there, as well as a few personal souvenirs. There's a diploma from the 1800s from a strategy contest, 1897 exactly, from a water pump strategy contest. This is an emblem of the power of the fire brigade. It's a saber. It was carried by firemen during the 1850s. I became a firefighter when I met a volunteer fireman in 1988. I was voting for the first time, and the guy greeted me at the door and asked what I was doing during the summer. I went to the fire station, and I stayed.
After 10 years as a firefighter in Paris, Fabrice Mosse came back to Provence, where he got promoted to commander at the station in Aix-en-Provence.
I like tradition. I keep our firefighter emblem, the flag for our fire station in Aix-en-Provence. Usually it's the chief who keeps it, but he gave it to me, so I'm happy to take care of it. This is one of the last big fire stations in France. 5 people, which is just not done anymore. It makes for a very demanding atmosphere, but we're all living a wonderful experience.
Mosse and Lieutenant Colonel Fontaires meet up every night to plan tomorrow's activities.
We're looking into balancing solutions. I suggest we form a group to handle this.
They're talking with the staff of firefighters through video conference. Tonight they're discussing exceptional news. In Ajaccio, there was a Canadair accident.
To avoid another accident. This Canadair was supposed to land in Marseille, but crashed a few yards before its destination. The plane's tail broke, and all aerial traffic was blocked for 5 hours. Finally, the firefighting plane was driven off the runway. A committee is examining the plane's damages. Until the Canadair is back in the air, other aircrafts carry out fire safety in the area.
Colonel Gregory Allione is the director of the firefighters in Bouches du Rhone. The 12 Canadair are stuck on the ground. It's a huge setback in the middle of forest fire season.
So we still have the 9 trackers. The 2 Dash are also still active. I'll coordinate with the air patrol. Do not hesitate to ask for reinforcements as soon as there's a fire alert. Considering how dry the weather is, we're going to need all the help we can get now that we no longer have the Canadair.
Colonel Allione is worried. He knows he'll have to enroll more men to make up for the lack of Canadair, and the Mistral winds will blow strong in the upcoming week.
The mountain range in Bouches du Rhone is a very risky place. They're very exposed to the Mistral. And we know that smoke is the first thing that most damages our forces. So, the first impact is on the firefighters. It's not for the Canadair or birds, it's for us.
The trackers and the Dash are still on duty, but they're still less effective than the Canadairs. To make up for their absence, the troops are on high alert to prevent any risky behavior. Today, because of the wind and the dryness of the land, the risk of fire is exceptionally high. The forest massifs are completely closed to the public. Going in by foot or by car is strictly forbidden. The only ones allowed in are the agents of the National Forest's office. They can patrol to enforce the law because people may not know they're trespassing in a forbidden area.
Hello?
Sorry, the risk of fire is very high today, so the massif is closed. You'll have to leave. Take the shortest way, over there.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. We traumatized another kid.
Mathieu Benquet considers that every stroller who leaves the forest is a fire avoided.
It's going to stay there for a few more days because the forecast is hot and dry and there's wind as well. For forest rangers like us, forest fires are a special thing. We work all year to prepare for the moment it happens. When the moment comes, we want to be ready. We want to be able to implement everything we prepared for the past year.
Families and harmless tourists. Most of the time, people understand, and they stop their forest hike. But sometimes, as witnessed by the gun and the pepper spray strapped to the officer's waist, things get heated.
Hello, sir. Can you please stop the engine? Thanks. Sir, you're on a closed road.
Come on, we take it every day.
Well, you're breaking the law every day. Here is a fine of 135 euros for circulating on a closed road.
Am I the only one getting fined? Do the hunters get fined as well?
Everybody who circulates here gets fined, sir.
Just for driving up here? That's some pretty bad luck.
Well, you can see it that way, but you're also lucky because we just prevented you from causing a disaster.
A 135 euro fine. The driver ended up cooperating. From June 1st to September 30th, he will have to check by himself whether he can enter the massif before taking his car. Today, the officers may have avoided a fire starting from brushes heating up against an engine. 1 forest fire out of 5 is caused by inattention. It's the second main cause of each summer fire. The first main cause is willful misconduct, which constitutes 30% of fire cases. In third place, we list outdoor work and natural events like thunder, which constitute 10% of fire outbreaks. While the Canadaires are stuck on the ground, helicopters are expected to be even more proficient than usual. An additional helicopter has been brought to reinforce the two which stay on alert during the entire summer. Pilot Eric Gadot is on duty at the aerial base in Salon de Provence. He always starts his day by examining his helicopters with a mechanic. I checked the magnetic covers, but we haven't flown since. The mechanic is part of the team. He's my partner here. If he's not there, the helicopter doesn't take off. Every day he does a daily checkup, which lasts about 45 minutes. This is the magnetic cover.
This is something that catches the filings before they get out. Filings are iron particles which detach from the gears and other parts. And this thing is magnetic. So if there's any filings, we see them instantly. It's an indication of the engine's aging.
And as the checkup finishes, an alarm sounds.
Exit 49, come in.
This is Eric's first season in the region. It's 10 minutes away. He takes time to check the address before rushing to the helicopter. Since I don't know the region, there's a fireman by my side who's supposed to guide me. But really, it's pretty easy. When I take off, I spot the smoke from afar and I go straight towards it. The pilot starts by pumping water from where he can find it, a canal. He fills his white tank. 1 minute later, Eric makes his way towards the smoke. But the firefighters are on such high alert that the fire outbreak is smothered before the helicopter arrives. Eric is asked to drop his water on the ashes to drown them, then get back to base. There are a lot of houses in Bouches du Rhone, so there's a large electricity network. As a helicopter pilot, I hate power lines. It's the biggest threat when you fly at low altitudes. On the scene of a fire, when you mix power lines, wind, a blinding sun, and smoke, all the conditions are united for things to go wrong. Without you, there'd be a lot more deaths. It's hot in the aircraft. When you're in a big fire, there's a lot of turbulence. You're exhausted when you get home. There's no rest for the pilots.
Brush fire in the town of Châteauneuf.
A new alert is heard on the radio. Let's go. We're ready, boss. Philippe Delquier is the officer on board with Eric. He tries to guide the pilot as best he can.
We don't like seeing a fire, but the action generates a lot of adrenaline. We never want to see a forest burn. It's the fight in itself that's exciting.
This time, the fire is bigger. The helicopter first circles around the fire to assess the situation, then fills its tank in the Bear Pond, a 12-mile-long pool of brackish water. The pilot comes back with 260 gallons of water. He drops them on the edge of the fire just before the green land. But it's too high. The fire's heat is so strong that the water evaporated before it touches the ground. Eric gets another refill and comes back to finish the job. This time, the drop is successful. The two-man team rotates another time, and then another. They make 6 drops in total before the fire is beaten. For the two men to manage to work so well together, They had to dedicate long hours to training with each other. Eric and Philippe learned their reflexes from an adrenaline-filled training exercise called the Drash. It's a simulation which trains us to get out of a helicopter after a crash in water. It's a mandatory exercise at the beginning of the season. The Army conducts this demanding training exercise aimed at testing the firefighters' reactions, as well as how they work as a team.
It's a practical exercise. We simulate crashing in water. The point is for the pilot and the firefighting officer to learn how to handle a difficult situation, a helicopter sinking in the sea.
Pumping water from an aircraft is one of the most dangerous maneuvers a pilot can do. Every year, the pilot and his firefighter teammate take a forced dive. It's one of the most extreme training exercises out there.
What are your names?
Eric?
Eric and?
Philippe.
Eric and Philippe. Okay, here we go.
Right now?
This represents the same configuration as the helicopter you fly. You'll see there's a stick for the pilot.
It's spring and the water is 59 degrees. Eric and Philippe are already cold. If the helicopter crashes while pumping water, the men have 2 to 3 seconds to react before they hit the water. They need solid reflexes.
This year is special for me. Until now, I've been a fire station chief for 15 years. Now I have the opportunity to see a different branch of the firefighting apparatus and get more involved with the helicopter unit.
Those belts protect you from impacts and prevent injuries. Impact with water or land is the same. But tell me, what happens when you crash in water?
The water rises in the cockpit.
Yes, you must protect yourselves by assuming the emergency position. Go on, and then I'll test your position. No, this doesn't look good. You're moving way too much. This one doesn't look good either. Look, your elbow just hit there. A tightened belt is a belt that'll be easier to unfasten. Go ahead, make it a little tighter. Prepare yourselves. Okay, let's go. Okay, we're ready.
Within seconds, the cockpit is underwater. Eric and Philippe hold their breath. Their belts keep them attached to their seats. They can barely see anything because of the air bubbles and their agitation. Like in a real helicopter, they have to kick out the side doors and get free from this underwater trap. The pilot's window is too narrow. Eric gives up and goes through the door.
You okay? You all right?
Was that your first time?
I did it once 10 years ago.
I'm on the large size, so in that simulation, the window wasn't big enough. On my helicopter, the door is pretty wide. We both have access to an emergency opening. When I kick out the door on my side, I'll have an opening that wide to get out, so it's no problem. But on the simulator, the window is smaller. No rest for the air team. They have to do it all over again, only this time it's more difficult. Not only do they have to get out of this metal trap, they also sink head first in the water, as if their helicopter turned upside down during the crash. Upside down, underwater, it's impossible to keep your bearings. You lose all sense of up and down. It's a very stressful exercise.
You good? Did you feel like you lost your bearings?
Yes, I went for the wrong door. I wanted to go out my door,
Yeah?
but then I realized I was on his side, so then I had to come back to my side.
And did you feel my hand? I tried to guide you because you went to the back, because you went towards the rear.
I didn't notice anything. Philippe Delquier is 56. It's a personal challenge for him to get back in the field in this aerial unit.
Slide your hand along your thigh, and when you get to the knee, you know the handle isn't far.
I found the exercise very realistic. It was extremely interesting, and we felt pretty safe. Unfortunately, there won't be any divers with us if we crash for real.
Yeah, and it's not like I want to transform into a fish. I'd kind of like to avoid that.
Like every kid, I dreamed of becoming a firefighter, and I moved on to something else. I did some studies, then came the time to do national military service. I didn't really want to get sent to the north of France to sweep a courtyard. I wanted to do something useful, so I joined the firefighters. I found a lot of values that I liked: team spirit, structure, volunteering, selflessness. I think all this stuff is important.
And the firefighters will need to be selfless this summer, with fire outbreaks that keep on happening. As the Canadaires are still stuck on the ground, a new twist is revealed. The police placed a man in custody as part of their investigation on the fires that have broken out in July. The town's mayors are concerned by the news and call a press conference.
This guy can start 3 fires in 2 hours. I don't know if you've ever tried to light a fire with just a cigarette. You need kindling and alcohol. It takes effort.
You sound like you know your stuff.
No, it's just at home. My barbecues never light easily. But these guys know exactly what they're doing. There's no other way to say it. They're criminals.
Stéphane Rossi is a journalist at La Provence. He covered the story of every fire since the beginning of the season and has attentively followed the investigation.
The police are starting to understand the suspect. He seems fascinated by fire. After starting one, he comes back to the scene to see the damage he's done. According to the psychiatrists, he seems lucid enough to be responsible for his actions. He works as a cleaner. He didn't confess for 48 hours. He told the police that maybe he threw a cigarette butt, maybe he set the fire, but it wasn't on purpose. And in the end, he cracked and confessed everything.
The arsonist is behind bars, but that doesn't mean there won't be any more fires.
Hello? I'd like to know if I could talk to the commissioner, please. Yes? On top of the fire that burnt 10 hectares, there's been other fire outbreaks? Right, so he's got imitators. It's crazy. There's never been so many fires in so little time. Thank you. Goodbye. Another fire broke out and someone else is in custody. This is yesterday's fire. This is the starting point.
Stéphane and his colleagues are sorting out the pictures from yesterday's fire. For them, too, the season means a lot of work. They can be sent to the scene of a fire at any time, day or night.
I've rarely seen so many criminal fires since I've been here, especially in so little time. Just in our sector, 600 hectares of land have burned. Normally, we don't always go to the scene of the fire, because they're usually already put out when we get there. This year, the fires are aggressive. We get what firefighters call atomic mushrooms. The smoke looks like a gigantic mushroom. These fires are visible from miles away.
How can he inform the public without encouraging criminals? Stefan is trying to solve this dilemma every day.
An arsonist doesn't need to read about fires in the newspaper to act. I still hope that our work can prevent accidental fire outbreaks. We're here to make sure people are aware that a thrown cigarette can start a fire. If only one person stops flicking their cigarette butts, it's a good thing.
Journalists and firefighters alike stay on alert. Hopefully, the Canadaires will be allowed to fly again very soon. In firefighter school, to stay on top of their skills, pilots like Jean-Marc Matteo must train on flight simulators every year to stay proficient.
Our mission in the end is to help with fighting against forest fires. We're here to aid and coordinate with the firefighting apparatus, with those on the ground, etc. There's a lot of coordination involved. All our resources must be used effectively.
One of the biggest difficulties for the Canadair pilots is to coordinate with the firefighters on land.
Everything looks clear. The trackers are approaching the right flank. I'm waiting for permission to drop.
In Velo's firefighter school, every unit works behind a screen in a separate room. The computer simulated a fire that looks a lot like the one which devastated the Blue Coast a few weeks ago. The firefighters must test out their decision-making skills. Everyone must place their troops and communicate with the other units. They must find the best overall strategy to put the fire out.
In 2 hours, it'll reach a town.
The computer-simulated fire is fanned by a strong mistral. Every communication must be quick and precise, just like in the real world. Even the commanders feel the pressure. Jean-Pierre Squillary is head of the forest fire unit.
Permission to drop on the left flank. It's like the army. They don't like war, but they go to war if they have to. It's their job. They live for it. It's the same for us. We don't want to see any fire, but we know there'll always be one.
Jean-Jacques Pourchier is one of the trainers and doesn't hesitate to shake up the troops who are slow to react.
It's what I want them to understand. I don't want to scare them. I just want them to be more efficient. We haven't had a real fire season in years, but this one could become very bad.
Where to place the troops so they won't be in the way of the water drops. How to reach the inaccessible parts of the forest to put out the flames. The firefighters must answer every question in record time while keeping a level head. The officers aren't the only ones feeling the pressure. In the lower ranks, people are very aware of the high risk.
Things are tense. According to the rumors, this is the first time there's been so much operational activity during a season.
Surveillance units patrol in the forest massifs during the whole season. Sébastien and Léa check on every piece of equipment they have before leaving.
It's very dry, so there's a lot of fire outbreaks. We don't work like the Americans. They let the fire burn and define a zone where they stop it by cutting down entire spreads of forest. We can't do that because there are houses around the massif. That's why we send a lot of people to every fire outbreak.
The surveillance unit reaches their position in the forest. Sébastien and Léa join 3 other fire engines from other stations. Their commander is Assistant Chief Jean-Luc Cano, a professional firefighter. He's at the head of a small unit with 18 firefighters ready to intervene if needed.
Hello, everyone. The hardest part is going to be managing 2 types of people. The ones who will get excited at the sight of fire and rush towards it, and the ones who will get scared and back away. The goal is for everyone to work together at the same level. The risk is flagged as severe for 8 areas.
It's very special when we're positioned in the massif. It's kind of a mix between work and summer camp. It's always nice to be in the pine wood in Provence during summer.
After the meeting, everybody gets back to their fire engine to kill time however they can. They eat lunch, take a nap, and share firefighter stories again and again. I didn't sleep during last watch.
What?
I didn't sleep.
You woke me up with your snoring.
A voice on the radio announces wonderful news.
I have an update for the Canadaires.
The Canadair can finally fly again.
3 Canadaires will join the forest fire apparatus this afternoon.
The troops are relieved. They can relax a bit. At the beginning of his career, Jean-Luc worked on one of the biggest fires ever, the Saint Victoire fire in 1989. He owes his life to the Canadaires.
The fire spread very fast and we didn't have enough water. It came right over us. We were at the back of the engine and the Canadair flew to help us get out of there. They dropped water on us from way higher than usual so we wouldn't get injured, and it cooled down the trucks. I won't ever forget it, as long as I live. And now that I'm a commanding officer, I take a lot of these things into account.
The surveillance units were implemented to prevent that kind of devastating fire. Sentinels watch over Provence in a tight network, ready to intervene as soon as a fire gets reported in their area. There's a noise on the radio again, but this time it's not good news.
Coordinate checkpoint 2.
"2 p.m. The patrolling air tankers sound the alarm. Suspicious smoke is rising over Fosse-sur-Mer, behind a large oil depot.
The fire was already big. We could see the giant cloud of smoke from dozens of miles away.
A fire broke out in a forest that surrounds a very dangerous area. This is where Marseille's fuel reserves are kept. The fire was caused by a faulty brake system on a truck. It was on the roadside, right next to the storage tanks. If the flames get to the tanks, it'll be a disaster. At headquarters, Fire Chief Gregory Allion follows the operations closely.
This is an industrial zone. We've got fuel and chemical sites. The worst would be a chain reaction. It's a very sensitive site. We're conscious of the human, natural, and economical issues.
150 firefighters are immediately sent to the site.
I can see the chopper ahead.
This time, they spray the vegetation with foam instead of water. The foam is a mixture of air, extinguishing agent, and water, perfect to fight a Class B fire, a fire fueled by flammable liquids which float on water.
I never thought about how I reacted to the flames. Now that I'm more experienced, I realize how dangerous it is. I'm not attracted to the flames. It's not something that excites me.
The surveillance plane Horus detects a second fire outbreak, closer to the sea, a few miles away from the first fire. The General Staff in Marseille studies the fire's images before deciding to send 200 more firefighters as reinforcements.
14 and 15, the West Group is armed. I want them all to come back safe. When I was younger and just starting out as a firefighter, I couldn't wait to get sent out. I didn't care about how I'd get back. Now, as a commanding officer, I send them out because we have a mission, but my main concern is to make sure they come back.
2:19 p.m., 150 acres have gone up in flames. Traffic on Highway 568 is blocked. Several hundred cars and trucks are stuck in the industrial zone. 200 employees must stay in their company's building. They're too close to the fire, but it's too late to evacuate them. Half of the buildings are classified as high risk. It's a nightmare for the firefighters.
We're asking a lot from our troops. The heat is unbearable. You can barely breathe down there.
2:49. 3 Canadaires take off from Marignan to bomb the fire with water. Despite a mistral at 50 miles per hour, the fire's advance is slow on the flat scenery. 900 yards in just an hour. The air tankers get on the attack. When embers float, they jump over the firefighters and propagate the fire beyond them. That's the main threat. There are several sensitive spots. A freight train stuck in the middle of the tracks carrying dangerous materials, and all the power lines in the area. Several other small fires break out because of the floating embers, like this giant pile of wood. All the fire engines are already working on the first blazes. The only vehicle left isn't big enough to fight against this new aggressive fire.
The fire will follow its course. We don't have enough men and vehicles to put it out, so we'll canalize it and guide it where we want it to go.
35,000 tons of wood go up in flames in front of the firefighters. They can't be everywhere at once, and give priority to other sites which they are about to extinguish. 3 p.m., the officers can breathe again. The fires are far from extinguished, but at least they're not spreading anymore.
This fire spread over 1,000 wooded hectares. An industrial zone like this one represents 45,000 jobs. It's a crucial point. The fire was threatening the fuel supplies for the entire Bouches du Rhone sector.
Now they must extinguish the last flames and drown every hotspot. A gigantic disaster has just been prevented. Though the firefighters show signs of exhaustion, they have the situation under control. Around 1,000 more hectares went up in flames at the beginning of August, despite the firefighters and their Air Force's constant vigilance. The arsonist who started July's fires is now behind bars. The season should be quieter, but the experienced officers know too well that during the summer in Provence, you can never let your guard down.